Okay, good day to all. So please accept my sincere thanks for the excellent support provided by Agyad Academy and University of Garden City in organizing and hosting international conference on leadership and entrepreneurship in the light of digital transformation. So I want to thank the organizers for your excellent management of what has turned out to be a successful and highly stimulating conference. I'm sure that everyone must have told you this. Such a conference involves enormous amounts of time and energy. You must have been working so hard lately to fall into place as it has, expecting the same and some more higher level of cooperations in the future from you with University of Garden City. So thank you for accepting my paper for the International Conference on Leadership and Entrepreneurship in the light of digital transformation. I am Professor G.K. Viju, Professor and Dean E-Learning, University of Garden City, Khartoum, Sudan. So my paper is explaining about the online and distance learning in Sudanese universities, their necessities in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic. As you know, the growing concern about the outbreak of COVID-19, most of the organizations or most of the educational organizations all over the world has been shut down in connection with face-to-face classes. As we face or as we are facing this unpredictable future found around the world, we need to provide our society as a whole with a flexible and vibrant education system. In this paper, I used a meta-analysis. Finding shows that universities around the world are increasingly moving towards the online learning or electronic learning or e-learning. The government and academic institutions around the world are presenting various policy initiatives to continue teaching activities in the wake of COVID-19 explosion. Still, there are ambiguity and disagreements between what to show, how to teach, how much teacher and students should work, what the classroom environment should look like, and what impact it has on the education equality. During the COVID-19 pandemic, inextensive national efforts use technology to support distance learning and emerging from distance learning as well as online learning. So there's researchers pointing out that some of the shortcomings of online teaching infrastructure. So mainly these are all the points that they are mentioning, like teachers' experience with online learning, knowledge gap, complex environmental access, teachers' resistance, students' resistance, and even job security. However, with these limitations, the current situation will not affect the education of scholars in any way. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, the Sudanese class no-end learning policy was introduced to ensure that learning was never compromised. This is one of several policies proposed by Sudan to determine whether national lockdowns or college closures have not affected the students' learning. To address such issues, both current and future, I would like to suggest that government and educators should further promote the development of academic information, considering furnishing teachers and students with the standard teaching learning tools at home, train and support academic research on distance learning, particularly helping students' education with the learning disabilities online. The crisis is exacerbating pre-existing educational inequality by reducing the opportunities for the most vulnerable children, youth, and adults, the poor, or those living in rural areas, girls, refugees, the disabled, and forced deportees. The loss of education threatens to extend beyond this generation and erode decades of progress and does not support access to education and the bonding of girls and youth or young women. There will be another 23.8 million children and young people from preschools as well as tertiary education due to the financial impact of the the epidemic. The school disruption can and will have a significant impact on education over the next year or years to come. So the provision, school provision of basic service to children and communities, it is going to affect the employability of many parents, including the provision of nutritious food, increasing the risk of violence against women and girls. Sorry. As financial pressure increases and development assistance become more difficult, funding for education will also face major challenges which will widen the pre-COVID-19 education fund gaps. For example, for low-income and low-middle-income countries, the gap has reached almost $148 billion per year and could now increase to a third. Instead, these crises have fueled reforms in the schooling sector. Distance learning solutions, as a solution, we can tell, distance learning solutions have been developed subsequently, rapid response from governments and partners around the world to support the continuation of education, including the Global Education Alliance by the UNESCO agreement. So we are mentioned of the essential role of teachers play and the fact that governments and other key contributors have an obligations to take care for children or for education officials. However, these changes underscore the bright future of learning and the accelerated changes in the methods of delivering quality education that indivisible from the need to hold someone back. This applies to children and young people who lack resources or who gave the environment to access to learning. So the COVID-19 dilemma and unprecedented educational barrier are not over. More than 100 countries over the world has not yet announced a date of the opening of schools, and government, unions, parents, and children are learning instantly when to approach to the next step. Based on the grade level, countries began planning to reopen the schools worldwide, giving priority to exam classes on through localized openings in a virus-free areas or in a virus-free environment. However, given the persistent virus outbreak, a survey conducted in May-June 2020 found that most countries have not set to reopen or reopening dates. These decisions have far-reaching social and economic repercussions and have lasting consequences for teachers, children, youth, their parents, especially women, and societies as a whole. Subsequently, the Sudanese government banned face-to-face activities, including teaching, in order to resist COVID-19. Sudan's Ministry of Higher Education, that is MOHE, has introduced an initiatives to produce hundreds of millions of students with effective online learning from their homes using Moodle with the help of Open University platform. More importantly, there is a lack of prior research on how higher level institutions are trying to cope with the students' interaction during COVID-19 pandemic and the closure of many high-level institutions globally. The importance of study. The findings of this study are considered of great importance to the different participants for a number of reasons. And some of the reasons are, the study will help identify critical areas and contribute to local literature on the subject, which can be used to relevant authorities to improve their educational initiatives. Second, the importance of studying in technology, information, and online modes can be understood as a way to improve your teaching skills. The findings of this study allowing higher education institutions to strengthen their programs to better prepare teachers by providing virtual or vital knowledge on integrated teachers of ICTs and enable them to meet the diverse needs of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the study makes a significant contribution to their findings by revealing the difference between various groups and their attitudes towards the integration of ICT in teaching and learning. So the methodology used here is an exploratory research design, which considered as the most appropriate to uncover the main complexities associated with online learning in the context of COVID-19 due to global lockdown and social distancing. A qualitative meta-analysis, also known as synthesis meta-analysis allows the qualitative studies for the systematic review, so which encourages the meta-analysis to consider the methodological integrity of their research in relation to core research processes, including identifying a set of preliminary research studies and transforming preliminary findings into categories or themes in an organized way. Similarly, this process used strict qualitative methods to integrate existing qualitative studies and findings. Urgent actions is needed from all to prevent a learning crisis from turning into a general or generational disaster. Education not only a fundamental human right, it is a right of action that has direct bearing on the realization of all other human rights. To mitigate the devastating effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, government authorities and partners are motivated to track the following policy responses, and they are: prevent the transfer of COVID and plan support to school resumption. That is the single most important step that countries can take to speed up the resumption of schools and educational institutions, and by making preventive measure to stop the spread of the virus to control national or local epidemics. Second, finance and coordination of education. The national authorities and the international community need to protect education funding in the following ways: by strengthening domestic revenue collection, prioritize the allocation of expenditure on education, and address ineffectiveness in education spending, strengthen international coordination to resolve debt crisis, protect developmental personnel development assistance. Third one, build resilient education system for qualified and sustainable development. Strengthening the re-establishment of educational systems enable various countries to respond to the instant challenges on reopening schools safely and to better manage with the future crisis. Fourth one, change in education and learning. We must seize the opportunity to find new ways to solve the learning crisis and come up with a set of solutions that were previously thought to be difficult or impossible to implement. Fifth one, the policy of defense. Education directors know that technology is never neutral and that any changes has a certain degree of resistance and controversy. Unnecessary protest and dissent in COVID-19 regarding the choice to use online and blended learning have become political and politicized. Infrastructure support. Appropriate ICT support is required on infrastructure tool systems that support software and hardware to provide effective online and mixed learning. There isn't any doubts that the integration of ICT as a teaching tool in academia has grown rapidly. Universities and colleges then began to implement applications such as Moodle, Odo, and educational blocks in addition to the existing teaching and training. Then comes the most important aspect, that is staff readiness. As an advance, take a look at WIRE. A way of means of the writer found that a few workforce contributors at the highest stage organization appeared to combine ICT into their lessons, especially in lectures and tutorials. Despite the fact that the majority, almost around 92% of non-dwellers agree with the self-beliefs that it's a competence that can be in addition to improve. So most of the faculties are resisting because they don't have the knowledge of how to conduct online learning, how to update the materials in the online platform, how to interact with the students, how to conduct examinations, how to conduct quizzes, etc. So they are always having, even though we are giving them enough training, they are always having a doubt. It's not actually a doubt. They are hesitant or they are resisting to change with the technology. Then comes students' accessibility. Today's kids are uncovered to technological devices, which includes cellular phones and fills rounds the sector, and the huge majority, almost 99.8% of college students have cellular phones that they use for texting, touring, on social media, speaking, and for different applications. Finally, make it happen. There isn't any doubt that ICT has turned out to be a critical part of regular existence, and the gaining knowledge of surroundings has turned out to be a demand for ICT literacy for nearby all qualifications. However, the World Bank has raised some of demanding situations due to the fact training companies are spreading to move on in line in order that COVID no longer have an effect on college students training for the duration of instances of retaining social distance among epidemics. As a conclusion, internationally, governments have taken drastic measures such as maintaining national lockdowns and maintaining social distancing in an effort to prevent the spread of the deadly COVID-19 and its spread. These regulations have induced many universities and higher educational institutes to choose online, having a look at to save you the unfold the coronavirus. In short, ICT has in turn out to be an effective measure for converting the instructional panorama across the world. In short, the fast emergence of COVID-19, new technology has given us a possibility to embody online gaining knowledge of an instructional structures combined, consequently making online mixed and distance gaining knowledge of obligatory now no longer simplest in Sudan, however, additionally on the highest degree across the world. That's all about my presentation. Thank you all. And if you are having any queries, please mail to me, or you can ask me now.